This Icon podcast is hosted and sponsored by Sphere Rocket Virtual Assistants, a leading provider for your virtual assistants and outsourcing needs. Owned by one of the top-ranking EXP agents, Justin Nelson. Sphere Rocket VA provides a one-stop virtual staffing solution for business owners, and we specialize in helping business owners grow their business by leveraging through virtual assistants. Trusted by the top names in the real estate industry like Kyle Whistle, Andrew Franklin, John Kitchens, and many more. Get ready to up your success and we'll help you achieve your business goals. Book your free consultation at sphererocketva.com and find out how we can make your life easier.
Hello, welcome back to another episode of the Icon Podcast. My name is Gianna, and today we've got David Sidoni, rhymes with baloney. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Of course. So, David, I'm excited to get to hear your story. But first,
Cool.
Give us a little bit of background. Who are you? Where are you from? How did you grow up to be a real estate agent?
I'm from Southern California and grew up surfing, goofing off. Got into showbiz in my 20s. And when I got out of showbiz, decided to get into something a little bit more stable. And because I was young and dumb, I thought that would be real estate. Oops. And ended up having a great time, enjoying it, and been doing residential real estate now for 16 years.
Awesome. And David, how were you introduced to EXP? That obviously wasn't your first brokerage. So where did you get introduced to it? How, why, by who?
I was at a couple different brokerages, and the one I was at before I was at EXP, I was very much growing, becoming one of the bigger producers, and had a team. I had a partnership, and that dissolved. And so then I was solo and building a team. And one of the managers at the old brokerage where I was at, one day she just, kind of up and left. And she had talked to me for a little bit. And she mentioned EXP to me and said, this is where I was going. And the thing that really got me, because I'm a techie guy, was the Netflix blockbuster analogy.
Yes.
I've been so long, especially as you start to get into the management side of things, looking at understanding, what are we paying for and why? And, the days of the walk-in are over, and, post-pandemic, geez, even more than ever in this remote world. I mean, here we are doing a podcast, and I didn't come to your studio. We're across the country from each other. That's the way business gets done these days. So I had an idea of something that I wanted to do anyway, starting my own podcast. And as I was forming that idea, the forward thinking and the progressiveness, and it just made absolute perfect sense. So I called up Peggy, and she was like, yeah. And so I just kind of jumped out and did it all on my own.
Absolutely. That's awesome, David. So I like, what you said. It's a virtual world, and, we can communicate across the country. EXP is international, so that's a huge advantage to it. And David, EXP comes with a lot of cool stuff: rev share, stock options, collaboration, virtual worlds. So what's your favorite part of EXP? Why do you stay here?
For me, obviously everybody has to look at the bottom line of their business, and the ability for me to be able to have, once you get to a certain professional level in your career, you're going to be looking at splits. And I hate talking about commission splits, but the stock options were actually a huge part of the beginning of me thinking about realizing there's no gold watch. And then the capping and the ability to recoup your cap. That's something that, I never anticipate not being an icon, because that's the goal I've set for myself as far as the amount of business that I want to do. And that just means that, I'm basically 100% all the time. And that was the beginning of it. But now that my business has sort of transformed from, I'm a local real estate agent, but I'm a podcast host helping first-time buyers all over the country, being able to have an immediate contact with different agents everywhere who can help me help them is
Yeah.
such a huge part of what I do that having a brokerage that has such a strong presence everywhere with quality agents is really important to me.
Absolutely, David. That's incredible. And quality agents and a great culture, great morale, a community, really. And David, before we dive into all things production and iconing when it comes to being an EXP agent, tell me a little bit about you, your work-life balance. How do you draw the line between work and play, and balance it all out? It's tough in a industry that can swallow you whole.
Yeah, I think, so a lot of the basics that I took, I've been doing the 16 years and it's all been about
Mm,
self growth. As much as I'm learning about um, contracts and understanding the business and staying up on things, I've been focusing on time management and, a lot of the basic principles of business.
yeah.
So I'm just continually reading. We as realtors have a lot of time in our car, and I think at the very beginning of my real estate career, I heard one of my coaches talking about, like, if you sell 35 houses a year, that's enough time in your car that you should get a master's degree. So I'm
Wow.
all about Audible and podcasts all day long.
That's awesome, David. And this is just an industry of continuous growth and self-improvement and having to be coachable and teachable, and it's always changing. So the skills, the way you sell, the way you influence, it's always evolving. So to keep up with that, I like that mentality, David. And let's talk production. Right. So you are in California, which is going to be a lot different than a market in, Kentucky and just Alaska, right? So this is a question I like to ask so the listeners can kind of gauge what kind of market you're working with. So what's the average housing price look like for you out there in Cali, the market that you're working, and how many houses do you have to sell to be able to cap?
I am in Southern California between Los Angeles and San Diego in Orange County, which, before the Real Housewives of Orange County, people used to know it because of Laguna Beach. Now, unfortunately, they know it because of that TV show. But it's a beautiful part of the country. Entry level homes, around $800,000. So, traditionally over the past 10 years or so, about 25 transactions, because I do a lot of first time home buyers.
Mm,
Um, I'm capping usually after a dozen or so. But uh, it's one of those markets that I learned very, very early from going to conferences and conventions, and that I immediately would look at other people, that if we had a median sales price of 900,000, I would be
mhm.
looking at the people who had a median sales price of 200,000 or 300,000 and
Sure.
following their techniques. Because there's two ways that you can, well, there's more than two ways, but there are two main ways you can grow a business in the area that I'm at. You could be a luxury person, which has much longer lead times and much longer contract times. Um,
Mhm.
or you can kind of play the mixed bag and have a little more consistency. And in order to do that well, I follow the people that do a lower sales point, but they're doing 100 transactions a year. And I don't mean
Mhm.
100 transactions with 10 people. I mean maybe just them and an assistant, or them and a buyer's agent. So following them has been the key for me.
Right. Absolutely, David. And kind of not what did somebody tell me a couple podcasts ago? Like R&R, rip it and write it, rip it off from them and
Yeah.
influence it, work it into your business model. And so David, my next question is going to be, aside from production, you have to take a step back and give back to EXP. That's why the culture here is the way it is, the morale, and the constant training that's put out into the world. So, what's your cultural commitment and why do you choose that?
Well, for me, when I made the switch, I had actually created a new business model that I
Mhm.
knew the cultural commitment of EXP was going to be perfect. I'm
Awesome.
by Disneyland, and
Okay.
I worked at Disneyland.
Okay.
That had became my niche. So, like people will have like they start either cops or nurses or a hospital,
Yeah.
uh, I had a group of people from Disneyland. Many of them were first time home buyers. I worked with them for
Awesome.
years and years and years. I saw so many different people say, great, that's your stepping stone, get past that. And then it's listings, 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 listings. And it was like 4 years ago where I went, this stinks. These first time
Mhm.
home buyers where I live are $700,000, and they're getting treated really poorly. They're giving to
Mhm.
people that are brand new agents without, in a lot of other places that have really minimal training. Um, and they're being ignored by a lot of the bigger, quality, good, experienced agents if they
Mhm.
Google. So I wanted to find uh, that culture that had a giving spirit and understood that. So I started this podcast for them, and it's a training educational podcast. And if they want to, they can reach out to me and go, dude, I like you. Who do you know that's like you in
Mhm.
Nashville, Chicago, Florida, Wisconsin? So this year, I'm at 123 referrals closed where that I have
Wow.
just given out to other agents from people who listen to my podcast. And it's growing and it's becoming a large part of what I do. And being able to continually have education be a part of real estate. I
Mhm.
respect, and I'm very, there's just a lot of great people in this business. There's a lot of people that are building business models, and so that they can just continually churn and burn.
Mhm.
For me, I've decided to work with the education first and let the business come. And what I found is, because I picked the first time buyer niche, they are really neglected, and they are so thankful when they come
Mhm.
to me. And then they're so thankful when they go, I want to get started, but I don't know who to start with. And
Right.
all I'm doing is I'm just playing matchmaker. I'm just changing their Google search down to the right people in their town.
Mhm.
And that's really helping me.
That's awesome. And David, I'm gonna ask you one more question about the Icon Award, and
Yeah,
I wanna pick your brain a little bit about your podcast, just for the sake of
sure.
listeners.
Okay.
David, my last question about the Icon Award is gonna be, what's your favorite part? Right, you get your cap back in stock. That's more money in your pocket, especially because it can multiply, and stocks are low right now, so that's kind of exciting for stock awards here. And then, you get a big glass shiny trophy, the opportunity to go to EXP Con and shareholders. So, why do you keep Icon on your list of standards? What's your favorite part about it? Just
So it's such a loaded question. So you do want me to answer the one that like I'm supposed to tell the public, or
no, I
that
want you to be
it's like,
transparent.
yeah,
Be
heck yeah,
brutally
dude.
honest.
It's just money in my pocket immediately for doing
Mhm.
nothing more than I was going to do at any other brokerage anyway. That's what's
Mhm.
so rad. It's amazing. And
Mhm.
you know, for me, uh, I also take advantage of using the stocks on every transaction anyway.
Yeah.
It's been a huge boom. I was lucky enough to get in and be able to watch the stock split, and just knowing me and my wife are like, oh my gosh, we actually have something here that we don't even think about that's actually going
Right.
towards our retirement. But the concept of being able to know that there's a group of people that are working at a high level that you can have conversations with and have a community with. That's something that's really exciting to me. And I'm excited. This year is going to be my first Icon Con. So I can't wait to go and see everybody and say hello.
Yeah, that's really cool, David. Icon Con. That's cool. I love that. That's exciting. That's coming up quick. October, right?
Yeah, yeah.
October 11th through the 14th. So that's
Hmm.
pretty exciting. And David, tell me a little bit more about this podcast, right? So, why did you start this? How do you keep it going? That consistency is obviously key. But, what are some just key points for realtors out there that are looking to start a podcast? Like, damn, what the hell am I going to talk about? For how long? How do I do this? Who do I talk to? What's my audience and why? How did you start this? What's your story there?
Well, it's the very long story short is I was working with first time home buyers and I saw them being
Mhm,
neglected, honestly disrespected. Again, full
mhm,
transparency, I'm a salmon swimming upstream and I'm cool with it. I think the real estate
mhm.
industry has a lot of fabulous parts, but just like a lot of other things in life, my personal opinion is it's a freaking shame the way that they treat first time home buyers. And it blows me away because all these people that are super smart and talking about building all their teams and doing everything from listings. I'm like, dude, it's 32 to 34% of the market share every single year. And you pass them off to complete novices who, and you don't give them enough training and you aren't there holding their hand. And in my area, it's a $700,000 purchase. Just give it a little bit of time before all the first time buyers stand up and revolt. If you don't
Mhm.
believe me, see GameStop and the stock market, gang. This is a new world of people, and they're living like realtors are living like the old days, like you put a sign in the yard, and that's how you get a buyer. And
Sure.
that's and they're much more sophisticated and they want different things. And I felt
Mhm,
really bad for them. So I started the podcast to help educate them. And then eventually, after the education, it was like, okay, look, here, not just here's how to buy a house, but step two really should be picking your realtor. And I
mhm.
mean realtor, not lender. Because when I Googled first time home buyer, I got 18 pages into it before I gave up because I didn't see one realtor. It was
Right.
all lenders. And God bless all my lender partners. And I think it's fantastic. But when you're new and you're trying to figure out what's going on, the realtor is the hub. And it sounds incredibly
Mhm,
narcissistic, but that's the way it works. And your realtor to a local lender is the strongest partnership. And the way to do that is to go through the realtor first and then talk to local lenders if you can. And so by trying to help educate these people and set them up for success, you develop such a great relationship with them. They're so happy, they're so loyal, they're so enthusiastic. And
mhm.
so I just been giving education. And then I'll get into all the details on what you want to do, and everything from writing offers and bidding wars and inspections and all that stuff. But it's amazing how few experienced agents are talking directly to the first time home buyers. So
Mhm.
in being able to give back to them and help them out, it's become a full-time business for me now. And that's, I'm spending half my day talking to agents all across the country, seeing if that is the right fit for them. I tell people, look, I'm not asking you to do, 12 first-time buyers for me this year. Although what my guy in Portland, I think he's had 7 this year. But I
Mhm.
have said, if you want to mix a few in and build your client database that way,
Sure.
then it's a partnership that we can do.
Mhm. That's awesome. It's a great idea. Feel free to, I'm not saying, plagiarize David's show, but take the ideas, right? Start your own version of it and let it apply to your market, right?
There
So you got to start
yeah, there
somewhere, and all ideas are inspired, so
oh,
influenced in
totally.
some way.
There's a great group of podcasts that I actually just started, kinda connecting with and partnering with. They're called
Mhm.
CityCast, and they're in the
Okay.
major metro areas, like Denver, or well, not but some. Denver, Salt
Sure.
Lake, and they're constantly growing. And they have smaller podcast audiences, but it's the same format that people use for YouTube. When instead of
Mhm.
having a YouTube channel that is like, I'm the best realtor in Salt Lake City, it's what are the best things to do in Salt Lake City? And then you're the
Sure.
resource. So you can do local podcasts too. Mine happens to be national, but I know local podcasts that are doing, some great things, and you get a smaller group of people listening, but they're the people that are in your area.
Mhm. Absolutely. That's awesome, David. And like that's your sphere of influence, right? It may be smaller, but those are the people that are in the market. They're great. Excuse me, I have the hiccups. They're, reliable leads. They're a good
Yep.
lead for you to follow up on. Oh my gosh, the worst time to get a hiccup. Hmm. Hold my breath here for 30 seconds on the show. No, not really. But
I'm gonna
it's
say,
just a
don't
great
think I can't
idea.
fill 30 seconds.
So, it's a great idea. And, if you're a talker like David and I, get a microphone in front of you, use it, right? We live
Yep.
in a world where we can make money off of this stuff, which is crazy. So David, if somebody were to come up to you and they're like, "Hey, David, I'm new to EXP, or I'm a rookie real estate agent that just came over to EXP. Um, what do I need to do to be able to icon this year? I want to set that on my list of goals. The money to earn back is awesome, but I am either new to the brokerage or just new to the industry. So, what are some goals they need to set out for that, or major mistakes to avoid?"
I think when you're looking to grow your business, the key is to, I'm completely fine looking back and realizing the mistakes that I made. And I
Mhm.
was a big sphere guy from the beginning. And I was so dedicated to that I really missed other potential, possibilities for me to grow my business. So,
Yeah.
I would say one, if you're going to do one thing, if you're just going to cold call or you're just going to sphere, realize
Mhm.
that you're going to have to do that like at 115%. So, I'm not a fan of trying to do six things well, but I think trying to do two or three things well when you begin, whatever your strength is, I mean, there are a lot of podcasters who became bloggers because they're just incredible writers. And, um, if you have a sphere and you're really working a sphere, that's great. But, mix in, um, open houses. And that's the great thing about the relationship at EXPs. You could talk to so many different agents and as the market shifts and homes are actually on the market for more than 14 seconds, then, you might actually have an opportunity to do an open house
Mhm.
and, touch as many people as you can and stay in touch with them, communicate with them, find new ways to communicate with the clients, whether it's through video or through text. And,
Mhm.
there's a there's a great old business guy named Brian Tracy who talked about, one of his simple things for people to do to get better. In today's world, it just don't watch 30 minutes of TikTok in the morning, read 30 minutes about your industry. And,
Sure.
he's some of the people who followed his advice saw their business double. And so they said, okay, forget it. And they started getting up early and they read 60 minutes. It doesn't have to be anything intense, just a cup of coffee and you in the morning sun. Um, and just get educated. So when people ask you questions, you can talk back.
Right. And David, I like what you said, play on your strengths. Some people that aren't so good at talking have turned to blogging. And if you're one of those people, partner up with a podcast host, right? We don't know everything all the time. We have to do our research too. So if you are our quote source, team up, use that as your podcast blog slash use the podcast as advertising for your blog. You can find a win-win here, especially in EXP, right? Because it's that collaboration and that partnership. So that could be a really good idea too. So David, were you ever skeptical of EXP when it was first introduced to you?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I was totally skeptical.
Mhm.
And it has nothing to do with anything but my own personal path and personal vision. Um,
Sure.
when I started, I was with one of the bigger brokerages and uh like everyone in real estate, you see the 80-20 rule. And I was dedicated to make sure I was going to be part of that 20%. And I saw a lot of
Mhm.
the 80% blaming brokerages and
Sure.
I saw that business model going away where the bricks and mortar of people walking in the door was an older idea that people could say, well, I want to go to this place because more people walk into that building.
Mhm.
This was
Yeah.
2005 and I was like, gang, the internet's here to stay. And so I saw people jumping ship. And then I saw, and also had so many people coming to me trying to get me to do something else to
Mhm.
supplement my income because
Yeah.
I was a realtor. So I was very skeptical when people came to me because in talking about the downline and everything else, I was like, I don't want to supplement my income. I just want to be really good at this. And
Mhm.
then someone explained to me the Netflix blockbuster where the rest of all the bricks and mortar and the other people out there, it just from a very simple standpoint, it's too much money, and so you can't give back to the agents or take less from the agents. And then
Mhm.
so once I got past that hurdle, and then I understood that the culture was also something that I felt aligned with and comfortable with, then it was a no-brainer.
Absolutely, David. And for somebody that's sitting here and they're watching this episode and they're like, "Oh man, like I don't know if I want to move over to EXP. It's a pyramid scheme, it's a cult, this, that, the other." So, David, that being said, how would you talk to somebody that's watching right now and convince them to, make that leap and take the risk and come over to EXP, even though they're a little scared or their broker's kind of trying to talk them out of it?
I I think the pyramid scheme and uh, the recruiting aspect of it and all that, it absolutely is a way for people to make money at EXP.
Mhm. Oh,
Uh,
yeah. There's 3
but
streams of revenue here.
yeah, I would say if you are skeptical of it, and this is my
Mhm.
personal opinion, and it probably doesn't follow company line very well, but it's kind of like you can open house, you can cold call, you can sphere, you can do expireds, but there's a way to do what you want to at EXP. And if
Mhm.
the downline will come eventually, but you don't have to come in and make that your goal immediately. And
Yeah.
when I started thinking about it that way, I realized that regardless of that, it's that everything else was a better brokerage model. It was
Mhm.
streamlined. 80 to 90% of realtors are working out of your home anyway. Why am I paying for all that extra stuff out of my pocket, out of every single, transaction? That makes zero sense. And, quietly being able to work for a company that had a stock model that was smart and that was working, and knowing that we're coming into a recession and you're going to be able to be putting money into something as growth is going to be happening down the line. Um,
Mhm.
it's just it makes so much more sense for the long run, because you get into it you get out of it what you put into it. But the difference is there are other places there's only so much you can get out because they only have so much to offer.
Right.
There's continual training here. At every other place I went to, the training depended on which top producing agent was any good that year and wanted to do something in your local
Mhm.
office, in your local area, you know.
Sure.
But now at EXP, it's all the time, anytime, every time.
Yeah. Absolutely, David. That's incredible. And I think you've shared so much valuable information here, whether it comes to growing your brand as a real estate agent or making that move to EXP and why. David, you're going to be at EXPCon. We did talk about that. And then if you guys want to reach out to him, do so, right? We live in a virtual world. Hit him up, ask him about his sphere of influence, his podcast, ask questions, figure it out. It's okay. We're here to share our secrets at EXP secrets, which is awesome. Again, a great part. If you're interested in coming over to EXP, come straight to the source, ask an agent, right? So I think it's been an awesome episode. Is there anything you want to leave the listeners with today, David, as we wrap it up?
One of the things that I would probably leave is just that I told myself for a long time to keep my head down and not be like those other agents who were blaming their
Mhm.
brokerages. And boy, I wish that at some point I just had a little bit more open mind. So I respect and I
Mhm.
understand if people are thinking, oh, no, I don't need to change brokerages. The brokerage isn't the problem. I know what I need to do. I just need to work
Mhm.
harder. I hear that, but there is an opportunity for you to work smarter, and you can continue to work harder, but there's a better business model and you can work smarter. And that's coming here just because it's
Mhm.
fantastically streamlined without losing any of the good stuff that you think you're getting anyplace else.
Right. And be rewarded for your hard work much more handsomely than a plaque that
Yes.
you actually have to pay for. Right. So I think that that's great advice to wrap it up on, David. I look forward to seeing you in Vegas. And thank you so much for your time. And obviously, if you guys are interested, check out How to Buy a Home podcast because I'm going to check it out after this episode for sure, too.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thanks, David. Have a good day.
Thank you.